So just when I thought the scooter was complete and I can enjoy it and get it on the road, this happened. And unfortunately it means I have to strip the whole engine. So yeah, back to square one by the looks of it. So if I remove this nut, you can see there, it has completely annihilated the splines. It's so deep. So the drive face was sitting in there and it was oscillating, which was hitting the inside of the clutch cover, which is what that kind of noise was. The nut, you can see the worn bit there, you can see the shape of it, it's completely worn on the top, it's like an egg. So this was slid slightly on the drive face. But yeah, definitely that's scrap. So guys, what this means is I have to replace the whole crankshaft, which is, yeah, a teardown of the engine. So as you can see, I've already made a start. I'm going to now remove the carb and the manifold. I'm going to have to take off all of the new head and the 70cc piston. But yeah, I do enjoy doing this stuff, but I wasn't quite expecting to doing it so soon after rebuilding it. But it is what it is. This is pretty common. The guys on the Gensuki forum have mentioned these are like cheese, these splines. So I'm very lucky that Benny has come to my rescue. He has a couple of spare cranks, and he has given me one, so I can replace it at least. And this is where purchasing an original workshop manual is really going to come in handy. This will have all the information required. And luckily, a while back, I bought myself a full gasket set. I only needed this clutch cover here. But I don't know if you guys remember, I managed to find this original Honda unit. So I never actually opened it, but this is all of the gaskets required for an engine rebuild. So what I'm probably going to do at the same time is work out which bearings I need and replace those also. I mean, there's not really any play as such in the rear, but I'm going to do it anyway. And all these seals, hopefully, are all good. But if I can retain these, it'll be brilliant. If not, I assume I'm going to have to replace these also. So this is something I'll have to find out when I do it. But yeah, this is the damage. This is the drive face itself, which surprisingly is in a really good condition. It hasn't ruined the teeth. But I assume what it was doing was this. And that's why it was hitting the top and the bottom of that front part of the clutch cover. The splines have retained themselves. They're pretty good condition. So I think really I could reuse this. I think it just really, the damage was all on the crank. That's obviously the softer material. But yeah, all good fun. So let's start stripping this engine down. Hopefully all goes well. It's been a very, very long time since I stripped a moped engine down. I think I was 16 years old when I last did this. But yeah, hopefully there's no more damage. Get it stripped down. Hopefully find all the spares required if I need them. And at least then I'll have a really, really clean, hopefully reliable, which it already is to be fair, little engine. So yeah, let's get stuck into it. So I'm having to drain the oil tank. So I've just put the bottle, luckily I kept the original bottle because it did have a little bit left. So yeah, I'm just draining the oil back into here. And with that, I can remove the shock absorber, which will lower the engine. And I haven't quite decided yet if I'm going to undo this bolt here, which holds the mount on, or as previous when I removed this, I removed it with the mount attached. I'm not quite sure. I might just remove it from here. From that point on, I can disconnect the plugs, and then the engine will be separated from the frame. And then I will remove the wheel, and then I can take the head off. I'm not quite sure how I'm going to remove the stator. I don't have the specialist tool, so I'm going to look into that and see what I need and see if I can get hold of one. Other than that, it doesn't take long whatsoever. It's kind of why I like working on little bikes, to be fair. Very, very simple. So the oil has been drained, guys. It's back in its container. The shock absorber has been removed, so the wheel's now on the floor, and I have undone the nut, so the wheel is loose. That's easy enough to remove. And I'm just removing this bolt here, which holds the engine mount to the engine itself. I've decided I want to leave the mount on the frame and put the least amount possible on the engine, because I will be attempting to strip it on the desk there. Now, with regards of the strip, looking through the workshop manual, they use a lot of specialist tools like pullers, etc. Now, I'm currently looking at ordering a flywheel puller because I don't have one of those, but they are very cheap, under 10 quid on Amazon. So I can order one of those. But looking at this, there's certain plates to separate the crank, etc. So I might be able to make something. I'm not sure, or if I can buy something that's cheap enough similar. If not, I may have to pop down to my local motorcycle shop and see if he can help, because the chances of him having these tools is much more likely than me, for sure. So, yeah, for today, I'm going to remove the engine, remove the wheel, get it up on the table, and then I'll come back tomorrow, see what parts I can get, and what tools that I need, and get those also, and then I can move on to the next stage. There it is, guys. It's actually extremely light. It's so much lighter than what I remember. So what I'm going to do next, this nut here, I've already loosened it, but once again I use this tool and just placed it in there, and I could just crack that nut off with a 14mm socket. So with this removed, this is where I require that specialist tool. I don't know if you can just make out some really fine thread. Now I've measured this at 24mm. Now luckily the tool I've ordered is good for 24 and 27mm. So hopefully it'll work. And all it does is just press on the crankshaft there and should pull the flywheel away, allowing me access to the stator unit, which then I can remove. But until the tool arrives, what I will do is start removing all this head here, which is simply 4 10mm bolts. So I will do that now. Okay, the tool has arrived today. So hopefully this is the right size. This is the 24. Then we have a 27mm. Yes. I'm assume we just pop that in. Easy as that. So that was a bargain. I'll leave the link in the description for this. So this was, I think, £10.50 delivered. So yeah, I will leave the link in the description for you guys if you're after this tool. So to do a bit of a clean up, you can see where I attempted to paint it when it was on the engine. Well, now it's off. I'm going to give this a really good clean. And even though you don't ever see this, I want everything to be as clean as possible. So yeah, I'll give this a lick of paint. The stator looks very dirty, very dusty, so I'll give that a clean also. I think this needs to come off via 2 bolts, I think 8mm bolts, so I can remove this bit here, which I don't know if that's like a magnet which reads the rotation of the rotor. I'll remove that. And then there's an 8mm bolt there and an 8mm bolt here. And I assume then I can remove this. So I'll have a go at that. And then maybe have a go at splitting the casing to get the crank out. And I hope it's not as difficult as what the manual makes out. They've got this like separator plate. I'm hoping I won't need that. I can just undo the bolts, give it a light tap with a rubber mallet, and it will come away. Give that a much better clean up. What I like to tend to do is put the bolts back from where I remove them, so I know, because they're different lengths, so I know exactly where each bolt goes, because even if I bag it up and I label it, knowing me, I'll still forget exactly where it goes, and I know that there's going to be quite a few. So yeah, I just like to put them back so I'm 100% confident that they are correct. So with that removed, I can see 4 8mm bolts in here. There's 1, 2, I think that's it by the looks of it. So yeah, there's 4 inside here, and there are 2 here. And then hopefully this will just break away, and then I can pull the crankcase out. So with these 4 loose, I just have to undo these 2, and I hope with a light tap this will come away. It sounds promising. Okay, I'm going to work at this because I've got a feeling the reason they press it off is because this is tapered, and I'm wondering if it's slightly pressed on as the flywheel was also. So it's not a problem. I should be able to make something. If not, but yeah, I'm going to work on this, and I'll get back to you guys. So if this isn't the most ghetto way of pulling off the case, I don't know what is. Let me show you. I've managed to do it. It's so sketchy, but let me show you what I managed to do to get it off. So what I managed to do is I've got this puller here, which I use for pulleys. I actually cut one of the legs down for when I did the main crank pulley on the 8.6 engine. But yeah, what it recommends to do, or what it shows you, is that you need this triangular plate here. Put 2 bolts into the casing, tighten up the center one against the crank itself, and it will pull away the casing. Well, I couldn't find a bit of metal, but I did have this. And I'm not even kidding you, how it worked, I don't know. These luckily have a slight flange. What I actually managed to do was hook this behind each of the flanges of these 2 bolts, screw it in, and believe it or not, it actually worked, and I can now remove this case. That was so sketchy, but it worked. Okay, so there you go. So yeah, these bearings are very good. I don't know if it's going to be worth replacing whilst I've come this far. I'll try and find out what bearings these are, what sizes, and I'll see if I can match some up, because I think it'll be worth replacing. I don't know if the crankshaft, I can't remember, I'll have to look at the image. The crankshaft I'm receiving off Benny, I don't know if they have these bearings attached, because I now assume that I just pull this away and it will come out the casing. But I'm going to read up in the manual before I do that. I don't want to start pulling if I'm not supposed to. But otherwise, we're in theory halfway there. So the crank is out, guys. So I didn't film it because I wasn't kind of expecting it to work. But first of all, I removed the oil pump because it has the splines here. If it'll focus, and it attaches to the crank. So I didn't want to wreck the splines. So for the sake of 1 bolt, I just pulled out the oil pump. And what it says in the workshop manual is to use a press and to press it out. And I thought, wow, it's all come apart so easily, and the tapers aren't that extreme. So I just lightly hit it with the rubber mallet, and it popped out. So yeah, really happy with that. What I'm going to do though is see about the bearings, and I'll have a look at the picture and see if Benny's has the bearings on, and if they're in any good condition, I'll just reuse them. If not, I'll measure these up and see if I can get replacements. But it seems a bit of a nightmare to try and get on. There's not much room to try and press them off. But when I get to that, because I haven't even received the new crank yet, when I get to that point, I will have a look into it. But yeah, happy with that. With regards of the seals, not bad condition, but probably could do with replacement. So once again, I'll measure that up and I'll see if a replacement can be sourced. But otherwise, easy enough so far, just by using some questionable techniques and basic tools, other than the flywheel removal tool. So far, I've got by okay. Okay guys, so I didn't film it. I didn't quite know that it was going to be as successful as it is, but the new crank from Benny is in. I had to use this puller, and what I did is I put a bolt in here and a bolt in here with some big washers. You can see I've actually bent this one. And then managed to use this and pulled on the bolts, which then pushed this in. So that is now housed lovely. Oil pump is also back on. I have also fitted a new seal, and I'll put here the website I managed to get them from, because these are the exact size required. So this is the old one. I'm not quite sure if I'll be able to show you, but it was torn. So it would have actually let the oil out. So I'm glad I found these. I bought 2. I also have one for the casing there, which goes on this side. Yeah, less than a tenner for 2 delivered, which is great. And ironically, this make here, Hendler, is the same make as the gasket set, which I've had for quite some time. And speaking of gaskets, I am going to now remove this, and I have a new one here to fit, and then I can get that casing on. Now I don't know how easy that's going to be because it has to fit into this bearing, which is what I've just done here. You won't be able to see now, but down in here, oh, you can just see it. I had to press that bearing into the casing. As I said, using this probably isn't ideal. The specialist tool recommended in the manual looks a little something like this. And what's nice is it even gives you the part number. I haven't checked, but I'd imagine that it's not going to be cheap if I could find it. So I may need to make something up to fit this casing on. But I've got the crank in, so I can't see why that won't be any different. And what I can use is the bolts to hopefully square it up and pull that in also. So that's what I'm going to do now. Okay then guys, so that worked really well. What I did is I just went opposites as well as these two on top, and it pulled that case into the bearing perfectly. No issues whatsoever. That was a lot easier than to get the crank in to the main bulk of the engine. And what I've just done there is done them up to 7 foot-pounds. It recommends in the book between 6 and 9 foot-pounds, or I think that is 8 to 12 Newton meters. I've done this at 7 and gone, to be fair, just a little bit more, so I'm more than happy with that. You also would have seen that the new gasket I've put in, I just added a little bit of gasket maker just to make sure that it's going to seal as best as it can, and also tapped in a new seal. So that's a new seal both sides. So now all that needs to be done is I can get the stator back in place. I don't know if I've shown you guys, I don't think I have, but the flywheel, I was going to paint it, but in the end what I decided to do is get one of those little sort of blue rust remover tools you can put in your drill, and I just removed the paint that I put on before, and I'm more than happy with the finish of that. So this can then go back on. And yeah, we'll turn it around. We can get the clutch unit back on, because I've decided actually with the fact that I haven't got the proper tooling to do it, yes, I've managed to do it and I'm more than happy. I don't actually want to take apart the back end to replace the seal. So I'm going to leave that as is. But what I have done is I've bought some brand new gear oil for it. So yeah, I'll replace everything. We'll have an engine. Okay then guys, so it's been around about an hour. Let me show you where I'm at with the engine. So as you can see, the cylinder head and the barrel is now all fitted. These 4 are all torqued up. I fitted the carburetor just because it's easier to install whilst this is out of the frame. Also, clutch assembly is all on with its belt. The nut here, as stated in the workshop manual, is 27 foot-pounds, and the same goes with this nut here that secures the drive face and variator. Check the compression, which they recommend that you do, and I'm very, very happy. This has always had good compression. So, with that done, I can refit the clutch covers. And then I think I'm confident to say that, yeah, this can go back into the frame. I'll catch up with you guys once the bike has finally an engine attached. But that is going to be for the next video. So as always, guys, thank you so much for watching, and I hope to catch you in the next one.